What's up, guys? This is Brent with 247parts.com, the best place online to buy your John Deere parts. Now we're going to jump right on in and start to show you how to level the deck on this John Deere Z320R. But first, the tools that we're going to need. First off, we are going to need a tire pressure gauge. Then we are going to need our deck leveling gauge. We need an 18mm wrench, a 15mm wrench, and then also a ratchet with 15mm socket. Now, it is important that we're using our tire pressure gauge, getting this on a very flat and level surface, and then checking our tire pressures here. And on this Z320R, what we want is 15 in the front and 10 in the rear. Now, it's important that we get those tire pressures correct, because if they are lower or higher, that is going to affect the height of the mower and the deck itself. But then our second step is going to be choosing our height that we want to measure at. Now, what I like to do a lot of times is put this on 3. This is going to give you enough room underneath on the trimming side here where you can get your gauge underneath there and your hands. This is just a good setup, but you can measure this at whatever height you want. Just make sure and get that set with your raise and lower. And now we can start to measure. So I like to start over here on the right hand side where our chute is. That way I can get this good and open and I can see underneath the deck and make sure and get this blade turned outwards, because the first thing that we're going to do is take our side to side measurement. So what we want to do is get that blade turned where it's pointing out and to the side where they're both going side to side here. So what we're measuring is we're measuring the blade tip right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our leveling gauge, slide it underneath, push it up to where it touches the tip of that blade. We're going to gently pull that out. Look at our measurement, and right there, guys, we are dead set right on 3. So that is what we want there. Now, the other thing we need to do next is go to the other side and check it as well. Now, let's say that for some reason that was not at 3 and we needed to make an adjustment. Where we're going to make that adjustment is right here. Easy to see, there is one hanger right here. Now, on the right hand side, this is where you're going to want that wrench, because we don't have room between the deck and the hanger to get that socket and ratchet in there. So you're going to want that wrench, and all we have to do is turn on this nut here, either clockwise or counterclockwise, to either raise or lower that deck. So if we're lower on this side, we can tighten that up, and then we can raise this deck up. Or if we're too high, we can loosen that up, lower this down until we're at that 3 mark. But then we need to make sure and be doing that on both sides, going back and forth until we get this set at 3 on both sides. Now, once we get across to the other side, we're gonna have to reach underneath the deck. It's a little harder to see, but we just need to make sure, get that blade side to side, take that measurement, and then we're gonna have another hanger, as you can see here, whereas this one will fit to where the ratchet can get underneath, to where we can make that adjustment. And then once we have these both set at 3, now what we need to do is turn the blade forward, facing forward and backward, and then take our measurement for our rake. Now, rake is gonna be the amount of pitch that your deck has going from the rear to the front. So what we're looking for is we're looking for about an 1/8, between an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch difference from the front to the rear. And we want our front to be lower. That way all the cutting is taking place in the first half turn of these blades. And what that does is, by doing that, that is better on our grass. That eliminates what we call double cutting. So that way we're not cutting at the front and at the rear and possibly damaging that grass. So the way that we adjust this is there is an adjuster there at the front of the deck, which I'll show here in a minute. But the first thing we need to do is measure where our blades are sitting. So if we're at 3 on both sides, what we would like to see is 3 in the front and then just a touch taller in the back. So somewhere around 3 1/8 to 3 1/4. We're just going to go underneath like we did before. Take our measurements here, 1 at the front and then 1 at the back here. And then once we take those measurements, what we're looking for, like I said, is that lower in the front. So if we need to make that adjustment, where we would do that is right up front at this adjustment screw. Now here's where we would need that 18mm wrench. So what we would need to do is, as we can see, there are 2 nuts that are on this adjuster. So whether we are going up or down, what we need to do is we need to loosen one or the other of these nuts. So if we're having to raise that front up, what we'd want to do first is loosen our front nut here and then tighten up on our back nut. That would raise the front of our deck. If we need to lower the front of the deck, then we would first loosen our rear nut and then tighten down on our front nut. But that is going to be the use of your 18mm wrench. And then once you get that adjusted where you are between that 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch lower in the front, we're equal on both sides, then you are good to go. So guys, I hope this video helped you out. I hope you liked this video. If you did, we just ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Also guys, if you need any John Deere parts at all, make sure to go check us out at 247parts.com. And as always guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, make sure to go buy your parts right here and subscribe right here.